Quick demo of this video tutorial. This is a step-by-step tutorial on how to implement CRUD operations insert, update, delete and select using Entity Framework DB first approach in C# Windows Form application. In order to insert a new record, you can do this. Now click on save. So here we have inserted a new record for James Jones. In order to update a record, you can double click on that row. Then it will populate the selected customer details inside these text boxes. Now I can update the customer details like this. James Jones to James Smith. Click on update. So here we have updated the record for James Jones to James Smith. In order to delete a record, you can double click on the row, then click on delete. It will ask for confirmation. Are you sure to delete this record or not? Click on yes to delete the record. So here we have deleted the record for Tony Abraham. I am sure you will find this tutorial helpful to understand Entity Framework DB first approach CRUD operations in C# Windows Form application. So please watch till the end of this video tutorial. What's up YouTube? Welcome to .NET Mob. In this tutorial, I will show you how to implement Entity Framework insert, update and delete operation in C#. Before starting this video tutorial, I would like to ask you a favor. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video. If you are new here, please be subscribed to this channel .NET Mob. We have already done a video on CRUD operations in C# Windows Form application using old ADO.NET method. In this video, we will use the Entity Framework method, which is much faster and easier than the old ADO.NET method. Using Entity Framework, we will do operations like insert, update, delete and select inside this Windows Form application. First and foremost, we have to create a Windows Form application. For that, you can use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+N, or you can click on this new project here. Then I will select Windows under Visual C#, then select Windows Form application. I will name this project as Entity Framework CRUD app. Then select the location where you want to save this application. Then click on OK. So here we have created a brand new Windows Form application. Inside this form, we have to add the required controls for this application. So open Toolbox here. Then under all Windows Forms, we need a label, then text box, then we need buttons, and finally we need a data grid view. So here we have added required controls inside this Windows form. Now we can align and arrange these controls accordingly. First of all, we need 4 label text box pair. In order to copy this label text box pair, we can select these 2 controls, then hold Ctrl, then drag this selection below so that we can make copy of this pair. Like this, we need 2 more label text box pair. So I will select these 2 pairs, then hold Ctrl, drag them below. So here we have in total 4 label text box pair. Like that, we need 3 buttons. Select the button, then hold Ctrl, then drag them here. Okay, so here we have 3 buttons. Now we can change properties of these controls. First of all, right click on this form, then go to properties. I want to change the form title here. For that, you want to change this text here. I will set it as Entity Framework insert, update and delete. Now we have the first label. It is for first name, and then below that we have last name, then we have city, finally we have address, and we have to name these text boxes. This is for first name, right? So I will name this as txt first name. I use prefix txt for text boxes. Then we have last name, txt last name, txt city, and we have txt address. Inside this application, in order to demonstrate these CRUD operations, we will be using details of a customer. like first name, last name, city and address of a customer. Now we have three buttons. First one is for save purpose, so I will name it as btn save, and then we have one button for delete operation, btn delete, and final button which is for reset or cancel purpose, so I will name it as btn cancel. Now we have to change the text accordingly. This is for cancel purpose and this is for delete purpose, and here we have a button for save operation. So here we have done with designing this Windows form, except this data grid view that we can do later. Before that, I want to increase the font size, then font color, then background color, things like that. So I will be back after that. Boom. So here we have done with final touch-up. First of all, I have made this address text box as multi-line. Most often we may need more than one line for this address details. And then I have named this data grid view as DGV customer. Then we have made some normal design modifications like background color, foreground color, then font size. For this data grid view, I have set background color as white. Then we have made some changes for default cell style. Inside that, I have set this normal back color and selection back color like this. Then we have increased the row height inside this row template here. Okay, I have set the height as 30. So these are the major design modifications made for this form. Now before continuing with this form, we have to create our SQL Server database. For that, here is my SQL Server Management Studio. Here we have connected to local SQL Server instance SQLE 2012, which is an Express edition. Now we have to create a database. For that, we can right click on databases here, then new database. I will name this database as Entity Framework DB. In short, I will name it as EFDB. Click on OK. So here is the newly created DB. Inside that, we have to create a table. So right click on tables, then new table. Now we can list details of columns inside this table. So here we are going to deal with details of customer. So we can start with customer ID. Customer ID, it's of the type integer. Then we have first name, it's of the type varchar 50. Then we have last name, it's of the type varchar 50. Then we have city, it's of the type varchar 50. Finally, we have a column for address, it's of the type varchar 250. I will set the customer ID column as the primary key. Then I want to set the same column as identity specification for this table. So select the column customer ID, then expand this column properties. Inside that, you can see the identity specification here. Set is identity as yes. So it will start from 1 and increment by 1 upon new record insertion. This increment operation is done by SQL Server itself, so that we don't want to insert values into this customer ID column. In order to save this table, you can use the shortcut Ctrl S, or you can click on this save icon here. I will name this table as customer. Click on OK. Now back to Visual Studio. Now inside this Windows Form application, we have to add the entity framework model for this SQL Server table customer. For that, right click on this project, then add new item. Select data from the left panel, then select ADO.NET Entity Data Model. I will name this model as DB Models. Click on Add. Select Generate from Database. Click on Next. Now click on New Connection here. Here we need to provide the SQL Server instance details. For me, it is local /SQLE 2012. And then from this drop down, we have to select the corresponding database. I will select Entity Framework DB EFDB. Click on OK. After creating this entity model, there will be a class with this name. We have to create an object of this class in order to interact with SQL Server. So I want to edit the class name here. I will set it as DB Entities. Now click on Next. If you have 2 or more Entity Framework versions, you have to select one version. I will select Entity Framework 6.0, click on Next. In this step, we have to select the database objects that we need to add inside this entity model. So I will select Customer Table, click on Finish. So here we have added ADO.NET entity model for the table customer. This is the diagrammatic representation of customer table. Here you can see the newly created entity data model. Inside that we have a customer class. It has properties corresponding to these columns inside the customer table that we have just created. Apart from this customer class file, here we have dbmodels.context.cs file. Inside that you can see a class with this name db entities. We need to create an object of this class in order to interact with SQL Server DB. Now back to the Windows form here, form 1. Now right click on it, then click on view code. So here we have the code behind, C# code behind this form design. Okay. First of all, I will declare an object of this customer class here. So I will create a customer class object, customer. I will name it as model is equal to new customer class. Okay. First of all, I will implement cancel or reset operation inside the button click event btn cancel. So double click on it. So here we are inside the click event of button btn cancel. Inside that we have to clear these controls inside this form, these text boxes. Okay. For that, I'm going to define another function, void clear. First of all, I will clear these text boxes here. In total, we have 4 text boxes. txt first name dot text is equal to txt last name dot text is equal to txt city dot text is equal to txt address dot text is empty string. So here we have reset the text boxes. Now I want to set this save button text as save. It is already saved, but we will change that during update or delete operation. So during reset operation we have to set back to save. So btn save dot text is equal to save. After that I will disable the delete button. Enable is equal to false. Now we will be using this customer object model in order to store the currently active customer record details in C#. Okay, so I want to set the model customer ID as 0. So here we have done with clear or reset operation. Inside this clear operation we have disabled delete button. We will re-enable this delete button during update or delete operation. Now just call this clear function inside the cancel button click event. Now we want to call the same function inside the form load event. For that, right click on form here and go to properties, then go to events, look for load event, double click on it. Inside that we can call the same function clear. Next we are going to implement insert operation using entity framework in SQL Server DB. For that I will use this save button click event. So double click on this button in order to create the click event. Now inside this save button click event we have to insert a new customer record with given details from these text boxes. So let's look how we can do that. So I will start with using statement here. Using as a resource I'm going to use an object of db entities as db is equal to new db entities. Before this using statement we have to retrieve the customer details from these text boxes using this customer object model. Okay, first of all we have first name, model dot first name is equal to txt first name dot text dot trim. Trim function is used to remove white space from left and right side. So like this we have 3 more text boxes. So I will copy this line and pasting below that 3 times. So this one is for last name. Okay, txt last name. Then we have city, txt city, and finally we have address. We have to retrieve the address details from this text box, txt address. As you can see here we don't set the customer ID property. It is already set to 0 during the form load event here. Now inside this using statement, we can insert new customer record using this customer object model. For that we can do this db.customers.add. Inside this function we have to pass this object model. Okay, model. And finally we have to call this function db.savechanges. After insert or update operation, we have to clear these form controls. So I will call this clear function here, clear. After all, we have to show a message box showing submitted successfully. So I will do this message box dot show. Inside that we need to show this message submitted successfully. Now let me run this application. Now I'm going to insert a new customer record here. Now click on save. So here you can see the success message, submitted successfully. Click on OK. Now let me check our DB here. Right click on the table, customer, then click on select top 1000 rows. So here we have the newly added record for Fiona Green. Now back to Visual Studio. Now inside this data grid view, I want to list or bind customer records that we have already inserted into this customer table. For that we have to add data grid view columns corresponding to these SQL Server table columns. So click on this right arrow here, then edit columns, click on add. First of all, I will add a column for customer ID. Column name will be customer ID, then header text will be customer ID. Okay, normally ID columns will not be visible in data grid views. I will uncheck this visible checkbox, click on add. Now we have first name. I will set the name as first name, and I will set the header text as first space name. Now check this visible, click on add. Now we have last name. Last name, header text will be last space name. Click on add. Now we have city. Header text will be city. Click on add. Now close this window. Normally address column will have more text in it, so we skipped address column. We don't want to add all columns from SQL Server table into data grid view. We only need to add columns which are required to identify a single customer. Now we have to set this data property name. It should be matched with this SQL Server table. So here we have customer ID. First of all, customer ID. After that we have first name. First name, then last name, then city. Now click on OK. Now we want to change few more properties from this data grid view. So right click on it, then go to properties. Here we need to reset this property, allow user to delete rows as false. Then I want to make this data grid view as read only. So here you can see the property read only, set it as true. Now I will bind this data grid view using entity framework. For that I will create a new function here, void populate data grid view. I will start with using statement. As a resource, I will create an object of DB entities class. db entities as db is equal to new db entities. Now in order to bind the data grid view using entity framework, you can do this. dgv customers dot data source is equal to db dot customers. Here you can see that this customers property is of the type db set of customer. I want to convert that into customer list. For that we can do this to list. We want to convert that into customer list, so we will do this customer. Okay, here we have done with populating data grid view. Now we can call this function inside the form load event here. So I will call the same function before this success message. Now let me run this application. Here we have done with populating this data grid view. As you can see here we have an extra column which is not added into this data grid view column. In order to prevent auto-generated columns like this, we can do this inside the populate data grid view function. dgv customers dot auto generated column is false. Okay, now let me run this application again. So here we don't have the extra column address. Okay, now in order to fill this free extra space here, back to the form design, then click on this right arrow here, edit columns, then select first name. I will set auto size mode as fill so that this first name column will take the extra free space here. Next we are going to implement update and delete operation. For that we have to select a customer record from this data grid view. For that you can double click on this data grid view row. Then we will show the corresponding customer details inside these text boxes here. Then we will update the save button text as update, and then we will enable this delete button here. So let's look how we can do that. First of all, back to the Visual Studio here. Then we have to implement the double click event for this data grid view. So right click on it, then go to properties, then go to events, then look for double click event here. So here it is, double click on it. First of all, we will make sure that the double click row is a data row, because the same event, double click event, will be triggered even if you double click on this column headers here. So first of all, we want to make sure that we have double click on a data row. For that we can do this dgv customer dot current row dot index is not equal to -1. Inside that we can fill the click draw details inside these text boxes. Okay, first and foremost we have to retrieve the selected row customer id. For that we can do this model dot customer id is equal to, we have to convert the value into integer, convert to int32. In order to retrieve the id column value or customer id column value from this data grid view, before this first name column we have added a customer id column which is already hidden. Okay, and we have named that row as customer id. So using this customer id column we can retrieve this selected row id. For that we can do this dgv customer dot current row dot cells. Inside that we can pass the column name. I will pass customer id here dot value. Using this customer id value we will select the customer record from SQL Server table customer. For that we can do this. I will start with using statement. As a resource I will create an object of db entities class as db is equal to new db entities. Inside that we can do this model is equal to db dot customers dot var x such that x dot customer id is equal to this customer id here that we have retrieved from the data grid view column. Model dot customer id dot first or default. Now we can fill the corresponding customer details inside these text boxes here. So first of all, we have txt first name dot text is equal to model dot first name. Like this, we have three more text boxes. So let me copy this and pasting below that 3 times. After first name, we have last name, txt last name is equal to model dot last name. Then we have txt city is equal to model dot city. Then we have final text box txt address is equal to model dot address. And finally, we have to set the save button text as update btn save dot text is equal to update. After that, I will enable the delete button. btn delete dot enable is true. Now let's check how it works. Double click on this row. So here we have the details of Fiona Green. Here we have updated this save button text to update, and we have re-enabled this delete operation. After changing the details of this customer, user can click on this update button in order to update the customer details. We have to add few more changes inside the save button click event in order to do the update operation. So let's look how we can do that. Here we need to add an if clause. If model dot customer ID is equal to 0, then we will do the insert operation here. Else we will do the update operation. In Entity Framework, in order to update a record, we can do this db.entry. Inside that, we can pass this object model dot state is equal to entity state. For that, we have to import this namespace system.data.entity.modified. After all these insert or update operation, we will call this save changes function. Okay, so here we have done with insert and update operation. Now let me run this application. Double click on this row. I want to change the city from London to Canada. Then I will change the last name as Green 2. Now click on update. So here we have the success message submitted successfully. Here you can see the updated customer record Green 2, then city is updated to Canada. After all, we have reset this form controls here. Now let's look how we can implement delete operation here. For that, I will use this delete button here. Double click on it in order to implement the click event of delete button. First of all, we will confirm the delete operation from user side using message box, because delete is a loss of data. So we want to confirm the operation. Message box dot show will ask, are you sure to delete this record? As a second parameter, we have to provide the message box title. I will set it as Entity Framework CRUD operation. As a third parameter, we can pass the message box buttons. Message box buttons dot yes, no. If user click on yes, it will return a dialog result yes. Dialog result yes. In that case, we can go ahead with delete operation. Okay. So I will start with using statement. As a resource, I will use an object of db entities as db is equal to new db entities. We will do this delete operation after data grid view double click. So when we double click on a row, corresponding row details will be saved inside this customer object model. So we can use this same object here also. So first of all, I will create an object var entry is equal to db.entry. Inside that, we can pass this model here. Model if entry dot state is equal to entity state dot detached. If it is detached, we have to attach this model object into the customer list. So we can do this db dot customers dot attach. Inside that we can pass this object model. After all, we can do this db dot customers dot remove. Inside that we have to pass the same object model. Finally call this save changes method db dot save changes. After delete operation, we have to refresh the data grid view, so I will call this populate data grid view function again. After that we'll call the clear function in order to clear the form controls. Finally I will show the message box showing deleted successfully. Message box dot show. Inside that we can pass this deleted successfully. Now let me run this application. Let me add one more record here. So here we have added new record for Tony Abraham. Now I want to delete this record Fiona Green too, so double click on it. So here we have populated the corresponding customer details here. Now in order to delete this record, click on delete. Now we have the message box. Are you sure to delete this record? Click on yes to delete. So here we have deleted the record for Fiona Green. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel .NET Mob. That's it guys. In this tutorial we have discussed step-by-step implementation of Entity Framework root operations, insert, update and delete using database first approach. You can download the project source code and DB script from the link given below in video description. Please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues so that they can benefit from this. Have a nice day. Bye.